Hello YouTube, man. How you guys doing today? It is me again. They do call me Kraken, and I run Liberty Woodworks along with my wife. We built that business 10, 11 years ago, and after my accident in 2021, we I dropped the business and let it just kind of die. And then in this last year, I have picked it back up again, and I've gotten restarted with the business, and it's been rough. It has absolutely, definitely been rough. When I first restarted the business, I had some issues with, I guess you could say, confidence issues, I guess you could say. And not really confidence issues. I mean, I know what I can build, and I know that given enough time, I can pretty much build anything out of wood. There's certain things I've never done. Doesn't mean that I can't do it. Everything that you build in wood has basic techniques, and those techniques cross over, you know. And so once you've learned most of those techniques, you can pretty much build anything. So even though there may be things I've never done before, the question wasn't whether I could do it. That wasn't really the question. And that's not where the confidence problems came from. The accident that I was in was quite major, and it, I've broken a lot of bones in my life, and I've been on the surgery table a couple of times, and I've always bounced back, and I've always bounced back quickly. And this time I thought it would be the same. I mean, I had broken ribs. I had a broken humerus up here in the shoulder. It was broken. It's still not right. Broken leg, broken foot, shattered, a lot of stuff. And the recovery on it was extremely long. Even when I got back to where I could kind of walk again, it was a year before I could walk half-ass normal. Over a year, probably about a year and a half, before I could walk half-ass normal. It was almost 2 years before I regained full use of my arm. And even today, over 3 years later, that full use is quite reduced. I can now move it in every direction, and I can use it in every direction, but I have no strength in certain directions. So the question for me was whether or not I could do this physically over time. And the second problem is that I wasn't sure that I could sell anything. It was a struggle. And during my and I've done a video on most of this, so I don't want to repeat everything, but I do want to set up for the reason why I'm in here today. In that recovery period, I went through this self-pity deal where I figured that my woodworking, leatherworking was completely over with, and I got rid of most of my tools. I threw a bunch of them away. I gave some of them away. I sold some of them. I didn't have much left. And when I started this journey back up again, when I made the decision to start my business again and get back in there to woodworking, I didn't have anything left. I had a jigsaw that wouldn't cut straight. It was a piece of junk, right? And I couldn't get that thing to cut a straight line to save my life. I had a miter saw that was all of 15 years old, and it was just a basic miter saw, and it wasn't a high-end miter saw to begin with. And I couldn't get a 90-degree cut on that. I mean, I could get an 89 degree. I could get a 91 degree, but I couldn't get that thing to cut 90 degrees to save my life. I fought that thing nonstop, constantly adjusting it. I'd get it adjusted where I'd get a cut or two that were 90 degrees perfect, and I'd be like, yes, I got it. And the next day it's cutting at 88 degrees. I'm like, yeah, it was something. And that's all I had. I had a couple drills. And a palm sander, a sheet sander, like a finishing sander, and I had a orbital sander, the battery operated orbital sander. And that's all I had. I didn't have anything else. And so I started this thing, and when I started it, I knew I didn't have any tools, and I knew I didn't have anything to work with. So I knew that what I could accomplish was very limited. I didn't even have hand saws. I mean, literally, I had nothing. And so I started building the simplest stuff I could build. And one of my struggles was that with the limited amount of tools that I had, I didn't know what I could actually build that might sell. And so I did what a lot of new woodworkers who are getting into this, and I'm not a new woodworker, but I did what a lot of the new woodworkers do that's getting into this, and I searched out YouTube, and I tried to search out easy DIY woodworking projects. And so a couple people came to mind. Daniel with Bearded Viking-WoodWorks. Give him a big shout out. He's been a huge influence in helping me get restarted again. Matthew Peach was another one that put out a lot of really small, simple things that you could do. And there's been a few others along the line. And I did things. I came in during the holidays, so I started making, like Halloween pumpkins, the tea light lanterns, and those sold fairly well for a short period of time. I did some picnic tables for chickens that did fairly well. And I did some Christmas decor, Christmas trees with ornaments, and a lot of this stuff. And a lot of that stuff was made out of pallet wood that I had, and that I was able to get. But I made it, and I didn't sell much for very expensive amounts of money, but I sold enough of it that I was able to begin getting tools that I had not had access to. And one of the first tools that I bought was a table saw. And I wasn't going to go out and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a table saw when I wasn't even sure if I was going to get a return on my investment. So I went and I looked for the best quality table saw I could get for the cheapest amount of money. And I was between 2 or 3 different types of table saws. One of those was a Hercules brand table saw from Harbor Freight. Great reviews, great tool. It's a really good table saw for a budget, right? Keep in mind that I'm not talking about professional cabinet shop or a production line assembly or anything like that. I'm talking about your typical backyard builder, right? That's me. I'm the backyard builder, the typical backyard builder. And that's what my series that I'm going to be doing here on YouTube is going to be about, being a backyard builder, right? So I'm talking about budget tools, right? Tools that the professionals might look down on, but that can put out a good quality professional work. The second option that I had was a Cobalt shop saw, or it's not a shop saw, Cobalt job site saw. And I was leaning strongly towards the Cobalt saw because of the fence. I like the fence on that one better than I like the fence on the Harbor Freight saw. Even though they're very similar, they're not the same. And the Cobalt has a little edge above that. And as I was about to make the purchase, I was going to purchase the Cobalt saw because it was $50 or so cheaper, and the Cobalt saw at Lowe's went on sale. And so I was able to get that saw a little bit cheaper, and I ended up with that. And that accelerated things drastically for me. It allowed me to expand the amount of stuff that I was able to make. And let me say that before I bought the job site table saw, I had bought a Chicago Electric from Harbor Freight, a Chicago Electric circular saw, right? Just a regular, what mostly people call a skill saw. Skill is a brand, but anyway, it's kind of become synonymous with the circular saw. I bought a circular saw, and so for a couple of months, that's what I was working with, was the circular saw. So I bought it 30 something bucks. I had the circular saw, the palm sander, the orbital sander, a couple of drills, and a miter saw, and a jigsaw that wouldn't cut straight. Shortly after buying the table saw, I got so frustrated with the jigsaw that I went and bought a Skill brand jigsaws, $39-40. I bought it off Amazon. And man, that thing is like light and day. It cuts a perfectly straight line, and it's even got a pilot light, right? So when you turn it on, there's a light right there that shines down on it. I love it. Love it. The next tool that I upgraded was my miter saw. I bought the Hercules brand 12-inch compound miter saw. Fabulous miter saw. Excellent tool. I love it. Can't say much about it. Can't say too much about it. Excellent saw. The point that I'm trying to get at is that I don't have a lot of money. I don't have very much money. I don't have money to go out and spend thousands of dollars on tools. I started this journey with the absolute most basic tools that you could work with. I didn't even have a handsaw, right? And by doing simple, small projects out of cheap wood, I was able to make enough money to upgrade my miter saw, to buy a new table saw, to upgrade my jigsaw. And this happened in about 2 months, right? And I did it by restarting my Facebook. I didn't restart. The Facebook business page was always there. It never went anywhere. But I was able to relaunch it, as you can say, and get people to come and help support it. And I made a lot of these sales. And every time I bought a tool, it allowed me to do something a little bit more complicated, to do something that was a little bit more technical, or to do something that was a little bit bigger in scope. I bring this to mind right now because at this point in my evolution with my business, I now have the table saw, I have an upgraded miter saw, I have the upgraded jigsaw, I have both the orbital sander, the palm sander, and now I've got a power sander, that a DeWalt disc sander that I got pretty much for free from a rewards program at my work. I've got a planer, and I've got a drill press, I've got a scroll saw, and with those items, I'm able to make most everything that I need to make. And now, I have plans to buy a joiner. I'm looking for them on sale. Currently, I'm looking at the 10-inch joiner on Amazon by Win. It's $555. If I decide I want to go with a 12-inch planer or joiner, then I might go up to $600 and something. And those are looking reachable now. Whereas when I first started this, I wasn't sure that I was ever going to make enough money to do anything. And so I bring all of this up because earlier today, I was watching a new video that was put out by Daniel at Bearded Viking-WoodWorks, and I went through the comments, which I typically don't do. I typically don't go through reading comments because I get annoyed sometimes, and this is one of those times I got a little annoyed. And somebody comes on there and they say something to the effect, it's not a direct quote, it's more like a rephrasing of what they said. They essentially said, you come on here and you say that you're trying to teach people how to do simple projects with the very few tools, but then you have all these tools in your wood shop. You've got, a planer and a drill press and a table saw and all this. And well, most people don't have a table saw. Most people can't. Not everybody has access to that. And I'm out here in a shop that has no electricity. I get it, right? I started backyard builder, right? I didn't have a workshop to work out of. I didn't have anything. I've got big wire reels from work that I have sitting out in my backyard for these old redneck picnic tables, right? And that's what I work on, right? I work on those. And I'm thinking to myself, this has been going through my mind all day long today. And I'm thinking to myself that I picked myself up from absolutely nothing with almost zero tools. And I am in the process of building a business. And it's not easy. It's hard. And it's frustrating. And there's times when I get down about it. And I try to ignore that. I just try to keep moving forward and keep moving forward and keep moving forward. And when I get down and I get in those moods where I don't feel like things are right, then I'll pick up one of these YouTube channels from somebody that does encourage me, like Daniel. Daniel does encourage me. And I pick up one of those YouTube channels and I'm like, yeah, okay, I can do this. I got this, right? I got this. I know I'm decent as a woodworker. I know that the product that I put out is good enough to sell. I know that. I also know that I have room to improve. I have things that I could learn. I have things that I can refine. And I look at people who come on and they complain because they don't have a table saw and because they don't have a jointer and because they don't have a planer and because they don't have, a circular saw. And I know maybe I'm going to upset some people that may watch this in the future, but I think to myself, did you think you could do woodworking with nothing? Right? You have to have something to do woodworking, and woodworking is expensive. It's not cheap. It's expensive. And so if you're getting into this as a hobbyist, understand that you're going to have to spend money. You're going to have to dedicate something to woodworking, and if you're not willing to dedicate something to that woodworking, then maybe this isn't for you. Maybe this isn't something that you should pursue, because tools are expensive. Wood is expensive, right? And that's why when you buy a custom handcrafted wood item, it's expensive, because everything it takes to make that is expensive. 200 years ago, they didn't have power tools. There were no table saws. There were no skill saws. There were no planers. There were no joiners. They did everything with hand tools. So yes, it can absolutely be done. Do we do it that way today? No, we don't. Why? Because it would take 10 times as long to make the same product with no tools as it would to make it with the power tools. I say no tools, no power tools. Does that mean you shouldn't have, knowledge of how to do these things without tools? Absolutely not. You should learn how to use no power tools to do the same thing. But don't expect everybody that's going to come on here to show you how to build something to discard all of their power tools just to show you how to do something without them, right? It would take forever. It would take forever. One of my biggest failures in social media is that I had intended to push this YouTube channel to promote my business and my TikTok to promote my business. And I don't have time for that. I have a business. My business requires me to put out product. It's a secondary business. My primary business works for somebody else. My primary job is working for somebody else for 10 hours a day, right? And so I come here and I do this for 10 hours a day, and then I go home to work on my business, right? And when I go home to work on my business, I have maybe 4 to 5 hours a night, 10 to 12 hours a day on weekends and holidays. And I give every amount of that to that business. And you want somebody to sit down and every video that they put out teaching you how to make something, you want them to spend all of that time building it without power tools because you don't have any? I'm sorry if I'm not being sensitive here, okay? If you're going to get into woodworking, go buy the tools. If you're in a shop that has no electricity, run electricity to it. Get electricity out there. If you're, they don't, as far as I know, they don't make a battery-powered table saw, right? So if you're going to do the work, you need to have the ability to do the work. Or you just need to focus on nothing but hand tools and put out maybe 2 or 3 products a year. That's what it comes down to. I could build a cutting board, just a simple cutting board. I can build 4 or 5 hours of actual labor time. To do that same cutting board without power tools, it would take me 4 or 5 days. Yeah, and I'm talking about days in solid work, like 48 to 50 something hours, right? It's not feasible. It's not feasible. So if you're going to get into woodworking, go buy a table saw. You can buy the table saw off Facebook Marketplace. You can buy the table saw off Craigslist. You can buy the table saw, at Harbor Freight. You can buy the table saw on sale at Lowe's. You're going to spend $3, $4, $5, $6, $1,000 on a table saw, depending on how much you want to put towards the table saw. I got mine for under $300, right? Under $300 I got mine. But what I did was I started with little to nothing, and I built that money up, and I saved that money until I had the money to go buy that power saw. My woodworking paid for my table saw. My woodworking paid for my circular saw. My woodworking paid for my jigsaw. My woodworking paid for my upgraded miter saw. My woodworking paid for the planer that I got for $200, the DeWalt 734 planer that I got for $200 off Facebook Marketplace. My woodworking paid for my routers. My woodworking's paid for router bits. My woodworking's paid for all my clamps. When I started, I didn't have any clamps. I didn't have none. Not a single one. So don't make excuses, because that's all they are, excuses. Either you want to do the woodworking or you don't. And if you want to do the woodworking, you will find a way to get the things that you need. And if you can't find a way to get the things that you need, then maybe this isn't the hobby. Maybe this isn't the pursuit that you should follow. Maybe you should consider that. Maybe you should reconsider the direction you're going. It's okay. It's okay to say, that's outside my purview right now, okay? That's outside my ability to accomplish right now, so I'm not going to pursue it right now. It's okay to do that. It's okay to say that this hobby here doesn't cost anywhere near as much, and that maybe I can start there and somewhere down the road build up to where I can afford to get the woodworking stuff that I want. It's okay. You can do that. But if you're going to do woodworking, get the tools, get the resources that you need to do it. I applaud Daniel and Matthew for teaching people how to do things with the least amount of tools. But nowhere would I ever expect them to do everything with the least amount of tools. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, that's what I wanted to come on here and say. Y'all take care. We'll catch you later on. Please stay tuned. Please follow. Please like. Please share. Please engage with my content. And if you don't agree with what I'm saying, hey, that's perfectly fine, man. This is a world where you're allowed to have a different opinion. Feel free to comment, right? I love the comments. Comment, tell me how wrong I am. If you agree, comment, tell me how right I am. We'll have a discussion about it. Catch you later. Peace out.